Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Charity Majors, and this episode is specifically for a certain woman. And hear me out for just a minute, but this is for you if you are holding back because of the fear of being seen in a much bigger way. Okay, we're going to get into it. So now I can definitely understand how that feels. And if this is you, lean in, listen in, because you are not alone. It's vulnerable to be seen. It's vulnerable to expand to a new level and to leave a version of you that maybe you have outgrown, or you're being invited into sharing your message in a whole new way, in a much bigger way. And it's vulnerable to show up and to allow that part of you and who you be to be seen. If maybe in your past season, that's not what was seen. Again, it can be uncomfortable. It's this invitation to growth, but we both also know that expansion invites us into a whole new space. I know for me, as I was being invited into where I knew I was meant for more. And I knew that I had a message on my heart and that I had been through some stuff. Man, I had been through some really, really hard times. And looking back, I was able to draw out the lessons from those hard times. And I had learned some things along the way. And I had this inner knowing that I was meant to start to share it in order to help empower and equip other people who maybe found themselves in similar places. And so I remember that as I was expanding into this space, it was scary and it was vulnerable, and it was like, oh, I'm showing up differently and I'm saying some different things. And I remember kind of this internal monologue of the who does she think she is? And then it was like the external monologue from some negative people that were in my life, that was the, oh, look at her and blah, 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 and all this different stuff. And it's exposing, and there is potential criticism, and we can kind of fumble into that space of what it looks like to be seen in a whole new way. And we know that expansion invites not just the excitement for what's to come, but it's also the potential for criticism. And if I'm being honest, it's that has held me back the most. It's not always the vision, the potential, the excitement of the big dream or the message or the whatever it is that's on my heart that I'm pursuing that has held me back. It actually has been the potential criticism. And as a person with recovering people pleasing tendencies, it held me back because it's like, oh, like I know where I'm going. Not everyone can come and not everyone's going to understand. And am I really willing to be misunderstood? And who they're gonna like not understand, and they're gonna like criticize and blah blah blah. And who does she think she is? And it was those voices that were the biggest thing that held me back. And here's the thing, is what I've learned from that part of my journey. And it's something that I'm growing through. Is what matters most is the voices and the identity of who you be and what you're called to do, despite what anyone else might say. But we have to heal those parts of us that actually put more value and weight on those voices instead of maybe that voice of truth inside that's calling us into that new season, that's calling us to be seen in a much bigger way, that is drawing out the dream on our heart, that is speaking life and encouragement into who we be on the inside and to expand into that. And so what we actually have to do is learn to shift. Oh, if I'm listening to these critical voices or this fear of being misunderstood and that's holding me back, it looks like that I've actually placed a higher priority or a higher value on those voices compared to that, maybe that voice of truth inside. So we have to shift where we actually, the voices that we hold most value for, that we are listening to. And we also have to feel to heal. And I know this can be scary. Like sometimes we can, like, it's really hard to feel misunderstood. right? It's like, I have a really, really good heart and I love people. And to quote unquote be the villain in someone else's story or the villain in someone's life is really hard because I genuinely love people and I know I'm not perfect and I know I'm going to disappoint people. And how can we work this out together so that I'm not a villain or so that we're not in victim mentality or like that's my heart. And it can be really hard to just allow people to think, that you're the villain or to think that I'm the villain or to be misunderstood in a season when actually what was really needed was that part that you played in their life, or maybe that part that they played in my life for what's to come next, right? So we have to be willing to feel to heal. We have to be willing to feel misunderstood. We have to be willing to feel the uncomfortable feels. And we also have to be willing to confront the parts of us. You have to be willing to confront the parts of you that are no longer going where you are called to go. It might be that part of you that people pleasing tendencies that isn't able to come with you where you are going next. Like it or not, expansion, that is what it invites us into. Stepping more fully into who we are called to be invites us into that. Where you're going, not every part of who you've been gets to come. Where you're going, not everyone around you gets to come. And even though it's hard, here's the thing is that that's okay because you can do hard things. It'll eventually get too hard not to move forward. I know for me, I have for sure been hit by in my book, Meant for More, Igniting Your Purpose in the World, it tries to dim your light. I call this the divine discontentment. And at first, it just starts as like a little bit of itchiness, a little bit of discontentment. And if it's not listened to, it eventually becomes like this 2x4 to the face. So instead of like choosing, why don't you like choose your heart and step into the heart of expansion as a sign that you're on the right track? I like to say that it's kind of like you're standing at the proverbial weight stack of your calling and you've been picking up the 20-pound weights and they're good and you're comfortable with them. And all of a sudden you put them down, you're like, oh, okay, I'm not as tired anymore. And I know that if I keep picking up the 20-pound weights, I'm not going to grow. I'm not going to get stronger. I'm not going to get the results that I'm looking for. So I'm looking at the weight stack and I'm like, oh, okay, for the next rep, the next round, I could pick up the 20-pound weights and I could totally look like I know what I'm doing because I've been doing it for a while. And everyone outside is they just, oh, look at how great she's doing with her weights, right? Look how strong she is. But all the while inside, I know, oh, those 20-pound weights are not growing me. So I'm looking at the proverbial weight stack, if you will, in front of me of my calling. And this is where we actually have to get truthful and honest with ourselves, despite what anyone else might say. Because here's the thing, if you pick up the 20-pound weights, everyone's going to think that you're doing amazing and it's going to look great. But if you pick up the 40-pound weights to double your capacity, to increase the weight that you are lifting, it means that it might get a little messy and your form might not be so great and you're going to struggle a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit more sweaty and hot and sweaty and smelly, probably, right? And so, but that's where the growth lies. It's in the picking up the bigger weights because your capacity is being expanded. And so we have to get really, really truthful with ourselves and pick up the heavier weights when you are being invited into a season of expansion, despite what your fear of being seen in a much bigger way might say. And then there's also is trust. Besides honesty, there's trust. So you have to trust that you are exactly where you're meant to be. You have to know that it is happening for you. Trust the divine discontentment. Know that you are meant to be seen in a much bigger way. Know that it's an invitation for you to step into, that when you're really, really honest with yourself, looking at the 20-pound weights or the 40-pound weights, oh, trust that invitation to pick it up and get a little bit messy, because the invitation for the expansion of who you be and where you're going and what you're called to do is there. And you still get the choice. Like, the choice is one of the most powerful things that we have on the planet. You still get the choice on which weights you're going to pick up, if you're going to stay with what's comfortable, if you're going to pick up what gets hard and messy. But you and you alone know whether or not you are being invited into that choice. You and you alone know whether or not you are going to pick what side you're going to pick up. You and you alone know the choice that you're going to make, because there's that truth that lives inside of you that you know what's best. It's not you're going to find it on the outside of you. You're not going to find it from another coach, another mentor, another book, another podcast, another event, like any of that stuff. Like people can, of course, give advice and they can speak into your life, and they can speak courage over you. They can encourage you for what the gifts that they see in your life, and it still comes from that voice of truth inside that says, oh, I'm meant for this. I'm meant to be seen in a much bigger way. The message on my heart, it has to come out in a much bigger way. So, my friend, if this is for you, then I want to say over you that it is time to pick up the bigger weights. It is time to expand into this next season. Trust the divine discontentment. Trust the invitation that you're feeling. Trust that it's okay to feel a little messy and to feel that it's a little heavier, that to feel a little sweatier with those heavier weights. But what is happening on the inside is that the capacity that's being increased on the inside of you is meant to carry the call that's on your life. It's meant to carry what it looks like to be seen in a much bigger way. It's meant to carry the influence that you have been invited into and the impact of the lives that you're going to have around you. And I just want to speak this over your life and say it's time. It's time to quit playing small. It's time to look at the weights and say, oh, but I can look so good picking up these smaller weights. We know. We know. There is something behind the ones that, even if it's messy, when they are picking up the heavier weights, there is something energetic that we all know. And so it's time to quit playing small. It's time to step into your season of expansion. You are meant for more, despite what anybody else might say. I believe in you, in your journey towards expansion. If you are meant to be seen in a much bigger way, then I actually want to invite you into our brand new Emerge program. This is a 6-month container for you to become a messenger, to take that message on your heart, to put it on a stage behind a microphone, and to put it in a book as a collaborative author. It's for you to step into the call in a much bigger way of being a communicator, to being an expert in your field, to growing and expanding into a new level of authority and influence because of who you be on the inside. It's in the vehicle, it's in the container of a speaker author accelerator, and who you become on the other side will actually amplify everything that you are doing in your business. So if you want to learn more about this, applications to be a speaker and author are open. You can go to businessbubbly.com/emerge. And if you are afraid, if you're holding back because of this fear of being seen, then this is actually for you, because this is within not only the context of healthy and safe community where you're actually willing to take bigger risks, but we're going to develop you on the inside so that the capacity of who you be on the end of this 6 months is not only a speaker and author, like those are fancy titles, but the identity of who you be and the call that you carry and the message that's on your heart. Oh, it's going to come out with a whole new authority. It's going to come out with all new influence, and the capacity of who you be on the inside is going to be expanded in a whole new way so that you can carry the call that's on your life with strength. You can carry the message that's on your heart with grit and grace, that you can carry the mantle that's on your shoulders with your shoulders back and your head lifted high. It's not going to crush you. So if this is you, then go to businessbubbly.com/emerge and apply today to be a part of our new speaker author accelerator. And I can't wait to see you in our newest program if you are accepted into this. businessbubbly.com/emerge. You are meant to be seen. You are meant to be heard in a much bigger way. And this is the accelerator and the container that can help you do that. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I hope it brought some value and some fun into your business and life. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, and even share the episode with a fellow business bestie who you know will love it. It helps us continue to attract top-level guests and reach more and more women who are on their journey in business just like you. Remember that when money gets in the hands of good women, great things happen. Cheers to your success.